The world keeps getting better when women make it a habit to fix each other's crowns and exclusively focus on picking up the broken pieces in the lives of other women. With great passion for women, children, and marriages, your hosts Ntwatwa Evelyn, Emma, Lorena, Diana D, Rhoda, and Lorita bring you the irresistible Woman to Woman reality talk show. Feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more about this eventful and exciting show. Woman to Woman reality talk show. You're welcome.
Hello and welcome to Woman reality talk show, where we have a heart-to-heart embracing womanhood. Now, today is kind of special. We have our very first guests on Woman to Woman. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
I am so honored to have you this morning. Now, before we introduce ourselves and before we dive into our conversation today, we all know that May is a month where we get an opportunity to celebrate the mothers. And I feel like celebrating mothers should be a continuous thing, should be done on a daily. It can be done every second. Every time you think about your mother, you can celebrate her. So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So let's celebrate the mothers. My name is Evelyn Ntwatwa, a mother of 3, 2 boys and 1 girl. I have 9, 5, and 3 years. I bless God for that. Joy.
I am Mrs. Ekimat Joy. I also have 3 of them, 2 males and 1 female.
Wow.
And I've been married for 17 years.
Wow.
Joy for 17 years.
Wow.
I'm Angela Sanga. God has blessed us with 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy, 24, 20, and 14.
Wow.
And I bless the Lord for that.
Wow.
My name is Daphne Yamkama. I am married to Joseph Yamkama. We'll be making 7 years in October this year. We have 2 children. One is 4 years old and another one is 1 and 3 months old.
Wonderful. How long have you been married?
We shall make 26 in October.
Wow, that's so interesting. I've been married for 10 years and I really glorify God for that. So ladies, let's dive into our conversation today. We all know that we are celebrating mothers very soon and we want to get to know a bit more about motherhood. When you hear about motherhood or a mother, what comes into your mind? To my ladies, what comes into your mind when someone mentions I am a mother or motherhood? What do you come to think of?
I think personally, when you say motherhood, I simultaneously think marriage. So because it's within the structure of marriage where God gives motherhood. So when you say motherhood, I think marriage, covenant, mothering.
Wow. Okay.
When someone mentions motherhood, I feel it is a state of someone being a mother. Either having biological children or adopting children. You can be a mother through giving birth or adopting.
And I love it when you mention about having biological children and then adopting your own children. I have had so many mothers or women mention that you only be a real mother. They even quote it like a real mother when you have had your own biological children. But how about when I am married to someone when he is already having kids, or when I have chosen to adopt children, or maybe I'm taking care of children that are maybe for a relative. So how do we term that? Isn't that motherhood?
Oh, absolutely. I think to add to Joy's point, motherhood should be thought of as a vocation, as a calling generally.
Yes.
That even a woman who is, for example, single can actually get into. If you babysit for my children, I think you're being motherly. You're nurturing those children. Even things to do with orphanages. When we go and spend time with orphans or help, there is that that aspect of nurture and taking care of others. So it generally, of course, it goes back to marriage and the institution of the home, but also the principle of nurturing and taking care of children. I think that is something that every woman can do, depending on the circumstances and the situation that the Lord allows into their lives. Right?
And I think I'll also look at it in this aspect of like it's a gift. It's an opportunity being given to someone. Like if I have not, because you can want to have your own children, but then circumstances may not allow you.
Right.
Maybe God did just like plan it that way, that you will have your own children. So like I feel like if I have an opportunity to nurture a child, or maybe like I have adopted her or him, I feel like it's a gift being given to me that I can take responsibility of these little ones. So now I am very okay, yes, we all have children, and I know we've had like experiences, we've nurtured, we have seen them grow. What are those things that have brought you joy? What joys have you celebrated? What things have brought joy to you, seeing your children grow and being a mother?
Should I go first?
Yes, you may.
I think for me, I must confess, I love being pregnant.
That's amazing.
I just love being pregnant. You know, the thought of just, carrying life, they're kicking inside there. You're looking forward to seeing how they look like, they're increasing. Your tummy is increasing every other time. I must say, really, I enjoyed being pregnant and knowing that I've been given the privilege to bring life.
To bring life.
Yes.
And when Joy talks about like having that picture of like I'm pregnant, for me sometimes it's like, wow, what a miracle. Like I keep wondering how knowledgeable God was. How can I bring life? How can life be inside of me? Like, coming and growing, and then before like I look at it, it is something that is already formed. So I imagine how miraculous things can be of God, and then how amazing God is.
And to add on that thought, the Bible says that He knit me together in my mother's womb. It means that when you're pregnant, God is literally on you every day, every minute, every second. He's working something inside your belly because He's knitting together this human being. So it's really a time of the presence of God on your life. It's an exciting time.
So we get to appreciate the nature and the beauty of His creation and how He does His things when we think about motherhood. So what other joys?
Yes, every stage of the baby is really beautiful. Right. But the one that I loved most is when I've just given birth.
Yes.
And I'm just looking at that little thing, very tiny. And also, it gives me joy when I'm breastfeeding.
The connection.
And when they start like smiling, and the way they just look at you.
I think about like 2 months, they are smiling at all of
right, smiling and lifting. The way they are breastfeeding, and I don't know how they feel, but they start lifting up
the legs.
It's so beautiful, and it used to make me happy, and I miss it.
You should be planning for one.
My old age baby.
Daphne, what joys have you experienced?
I think about when they spoke their first words, Dada or Mama. It's like it's just so beautiful. Just hearing their voice, and like how they are picking up their vocabulary. And then of course the vocabulary gets big, and then they can say a sentence. So, Mama, may I have this or that? And just like the privilege of walking alongside this other human being.
Little tiny human being.
Right? Yeah, it's precious, absolutely precious.
I think that has reminded me that even when walking alongside them, it gives me this feeling like someone is dependent on me. The beauty that it comes with it, that when they say, oh, it's mommy that is going to rescue me, when they get a problem and they're like, mommy, come and like I'm like, oh, I'm there, like they used to tell us that we are earthly God or something like that. Like you feel like their lives and well-being all is dependent on you. Yeah, but also another thing like becoming a mother or being a mother that I am has helped me to realize how much I can love and how like my love is not conditional when it comes to my children, because like when I had my first son, I felt like, oh, I love him so much. Will I ever love again? Okay, that love that you get and you're like, oh, this is my first baby. You feel like all your life is rotating around this baby. And then again, you have the second child. And then you're able to love them the same and equally, like the way you loved your first. And then the third one. And then it helps me like, it has made me reflect so much on the love of Christ. Like, so this is how God loves us. That He's able to love you the way you are. And then the same love to me and then to the other person and then the other person. So those are the joys I have experienced in this journey of motherhood.
To add on that, I remember when I gave birth to my firstborn, I loved her so much I could not believe. And the more I loved her, the more I remembered my mother.
Wow. Wow.
And I felt that love for my mother more than I think I had before.
Glad you mentioned it.
To the extent that when I gave birth and I saw what I went through, how I have loved my baby, I remember that this is exactly how my mother loved me. I even bought for her gift.
Wow.
I had to buy for her gift just because of that.
I think that goes without saying, because honestly, I remember when I was celebrating my first son's birthday, the first year, I cried. I told my mom, is this what you went through? Like the sleepless nights, like everything, like it all came back, and I'm like, is this what my mother went through? From the first child, the second child, the third child, the fourth child, and she's able to still be standing and support us. So when Angela says that it reminds her of the love of her mother, I think I strongly relate with that.
I think when we talk about joys, the thing that I have loved about being a mother is that it's given me this anchoring as an adult.
Wow.
The fact that like that responsibility of someone looking up to you. There's a way it's matured me, you know. Usually ladies are like, oh, I miss my younger days, and I usually tell my friends, I actually mean not really. I really enjoy the fact that I am a mother. I am like, there is that lens to life that I've been able to get and gain because of these little children that have come my way.
I think how I can relate with that is like, okay, for me I think it's quite different. Like there are moments where you feel like, oh, I miss the young me, but then the joy of you being now an adult and having children is stronger than the other feeling. Like you feel like, oh, now I feel this is more beautiful than the way I was like before. So, and I think it's important that even as we go through the phases of life, we enjoy every phase. Like, you know, when you're single, you have no children, please enjoy that. Yeah, and when you become a mother, maximize it before they leave you, actually.
That's true.
So, we've seen, we've talked about the joys. I want to share with us, when you had your very first baby, what is that one thing that you remember that you either went through or you experienced or made you sad or happy? What is that particular thing when you had your very first baby? Is there anything you remember? Oh, it's way long.
I don't. It's 4 years ago. I do. It's like
yesterday.
It's like it was yesterday. I remember I was in labor for 2 days, and I was tired. I was vomiting. 2 days in Mulago, in labor. And it was so painful. it was so painful, and they kept on telling me to move up and down those stairs of Mulago from 6th floor to
Can you imagine?
the whole night. Me and my husband walked the whole day. I remember how it was so painful. And when the doctor came to check, definitely being the first
Baby.
the first being the mother for the first
First
time,
time.
I was scared. I didn't know what to expect. And the doctor saw that I was so scared and said, "You are going to kill your baby."
Wow.
When he mentioned that, I think I got into back to
Your
my
normal
senses.
sense.
My normal senses. I said, I have to give birth to this baby. And I pushed. But one thing that I remember, when the baby cried like this, I forgot all the pain that I had for the 2 days.
Speak about that. Speak about
When the baby cried, everything that I had gone through for the last 2 days disappeared.
Yes, disappeared.
Now my mind, I was looking at my baby like this. I didn't want the baby to cry. I remember that joy.
Wow.
That joy of that morning at 8:30 a.m.
I remember that time.
Joy, is there something?
I remember very well. I remember because most of mine were C-section. So we would plan out, when are we going, what time are we leaving, stuff like that. But one of the things that I really was very excited about is that the idea of being with your best friend in this journey, your husband, being there and supporting and standing with you. And of course, when the baby came out, the breastfeeding, it's the whole entire process is totally unexplainable because of things happen a little fast, but every one of them that happens is as deep as and as sweet as you can't compare it to anything else. And like she said, the moment you see the baby, you forget. And that's why men sometimes don't understand how we want to go back there, especially when they escorted us there. They're like, "You want to go back there?" No, but the moment you see the baby, you're like, "Yeah, we can do this again." So I remember being so happy about seeing a human I'd been carrying all these months, finally they're in my arms, and all these times you're asking the eyes, the dad's eyes, mommy's eyes, whose foot, whose all those are just very exciting moments. Yes.
You asked the exciting or the hard part?
No, it can be any. What exactly do you remember that? Okay, maybe something that can never get out of your head on that very first child.
Okay. So my first child is a rainbow baby. We conceived him after we lost our first child. So what I do remember was how I wasn't looking forward to this baby. I was so emotionally tired, depressed about the fact that I'd lost the other one. So I feel embarrassed that I wasn't really excited to receive our firstborn.
And yet it's understandable.
Yes, and so God was so gracious in using an older lady who told me, "Daphne, I understand you're going through grief about the first child, but you need to think about the fact that you now have this one." Yeah. So I think that I remember that, and seeing how joyful Abaho is. His name is Abaho. It's always like that encouragement is like the embodiment of encouragement to me because of those difficult times in which he came about. So yeah, that really sticks out.
Oh, okay. Now that puts me in a different environment. But anyway, all I remember is, after having gone through a lot of pain, and then you give birth, it seemed like I wouldn't want to say I lost myself or I lost in a minute. But then it's like you've gone through a lot of pain, and then you're still there thinking of the pain that you have gone through. And then in that moment, you hear your child cry. When my boy cried, I was like, "Please bring my baby to me." Now, that is when it rang in my mind that, I have a baby. Yes. And then I remember the words some of my friends keep telling me that, that you said things when you had your first baby. Like, I was like, this is my baby. I don't mind who you are, but anyone who touches my baby, like,
You are sure.
Sometimes I look back and I laugh at myself. I'm like, what were you up to? But anyway, I guess it was all excitement of having this little human being. Yeah. So we've journeyed into that, and as mothers, we have responsibilities. And I'm thinking that what are those responsibilities have we neglected? Or let me say, like, our roles as mothers. But before we talk about the responsibilities that we have neglected, do we even know them? Do we know our responsibilities as mothers? So I think we can look into what are those responsibilities that every mother needs to, keep at the at the tips of their finger.
I think Daphne should go first.
Daphne, yes. I overlooked this.
Yeah, so we've talked about the aspect of nurturing. Yes, as a mom. And I think that motherhood and nurturing are one and the same, in the sense that you are responsible for the physical well-being of that child. That means we're talking food, you're talking clothing, is he warm enough, is it too cold, and all of that. The emotional aspect, why is the child moody? He's usually up and upbeat. Why is he suddenly off? What's going on? But also the spiritual nurturing of the child, praying and supporting them and guiding them through scripture. So I think that holistic nurture is very, it speaks at the heart, to the heart of mothering. The other aspect that I think of is homemaking. I think we know that most of the beauties of our childhood always has something to do with this special meal that mommy made, or this special clothing that she bought or made. So I think the aspect of how is the home looking, what is, like, what's your vision for the home in which that child has come,
being raised.
Is it safe for them? Is it clean enough for them? Do they have their beddings ready and all of that? So those are the two aspects I can think of.
Wow, thank you.
I think it is my responsibility as a mother to help this child to grow, to become a man or a woman that God created him or her to be.
What I can say is, as a mother, I feel like it's my responsibility to train. I always give examples of, like, when we were growing up, most of the things that we are doing today or we are able to do today come from the times when we were also growing up. Like, your mother is, just like they say, your mother is the very first teacher. Because whatever you learn from your mother. She's the one who teaches you how to speak to people, how to greet people, how to cook, how to do this and that. So I always reflect motherhood as like, as something that we have to train. We have to wear that training. I don't know how I can call it.
Teacher.
Like, be a teacher. Be a teacher of your children. Yes.
Yeah, I think not very different. I think it's Titus who teaches us some of the things that we need to, that are responsibilities as mothers. Like she said, homemaking, teaching our children to love God, to love each other. And I think the home is a very powerful place, because the home is a place where we learn all our fasts.
Yes, right.
I will first learn how to relate at home. I'll first learn how to have table manners at home. I'll first learn how to cook at home. I'll first learn mom and dad at home. I'll first learn God at home, which God does, that's my household worship. So home is a very powerful place, and that's where God has put the mother, and the father. And so whatever pertains home, if you're not prepared at home, chances are very few that you'll be ready to live out there. So I think that it's a very noble calling, and I think that when we we were speaking earlier, and I was saying that sometimes as mothers we almost feel like we have been totaled up to being in the kitchen, cooking and all that kind of stuff. But actually, when Daphne talks about the spiritual aspect, that's actually like very high. It's very key. for us to be able to nurture our children so they can walk that path that God wants them to walk in. It would be a shame for us as Christian homes to know God and then the generations after us don't know God. So that, I think, that is very, very key.
Yeah, it's very key, and I think it takes me to a point of like that is the purpose of motherhood, the great purpose of motherhood, that God has called us to nurture them, to lead them, like to train them into the line of knowing Him, of knowing Christ, and of knowing who entirely He is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
also, just to add, there is that famous English saying, "Charity begins at
at home.
So I keep thinking about that, and also to say that when we talk of training and preparing the child, I think of it as a form of discipleship. You know, when Jesus tells the disciples that go ye make disciples out of the nations, we often think of the outside world. We don't realize
that it starts
the magnitude, magnitude that mothers have over their children, the influence that you're able to train that child to love God in ways that nobody else can. So, and at the very least, at least have you create the building blocks upon which the Sunday school teachers will add on, upon the teachers they will meet, and all of that, because you have already, for example, prepared the child that you respect your father and mother, you respect your old brothers and sisters. Respect, authority becomes easier in school, you know. So that's, when I think of it, it's that training that is absolutely like a really high calling that we really have to.
And thank you for bringing that. It reminds me that you know how people say that whatever you teach your child, no, actually they say teach your child before the world teaches them. So I believe, like, as mothers, if we be very intentional on teaching them whatever that we want them to learn when they are growing up, it helps us that even when they find the world with its, like, you know, agendas and all that, they will not be confused and be, you know, lost because they've brought up their
The Bible says that we teach our children the way to go. When they grow up,
they will never depart.
Yeah.
And that's a good point, because I keep thinking about the Proverbs, the book. You know, it's quite interesting how this son, is taught both by mother and father. You know, like all the way, like chapter 2, for example. Here, oh son, your mother's instructions and your father's guidance. Like, it's embodied throughout the whole book. You know, even Proverbs 31, woman. It's the mother actually telling the son on what to look out for. So just
in a woman,
right, like that whole instructing aspect that is both embodied by both the father and the mother of the child. Right?
So what roles have we neglected as mothers? The things that we have not put so much emphasis on, yet they are very crucial in raising our children.
I have a feeling that it all starts with mothers not being available. I think all these other things that we have talked about, they start from there. If the mother is not available, this child will miss all. Because all of us, we know that outside there are myself and another, and you and you, we mothers have left their children in the name of working for them, and then we forget that as you are looking for money, you come back and you won't find a child. In which way? You find a child, the character that knows for the household. The child and knows the household more than the child knows the mother. But by the time the child is a teenager, you cannot bring her back. If you have not helped the child at a tender age, it will be hard.
So
it
Angela
will be hard
says
for the mother.
you say availability of the mother,
Availability
like
of
it
the
all
mother.
stems from there, being available for your children. What other
I think I would add on what
Angela's.
Angela said, that the church is also, the family has abandoned a lot to the church. In other words, the family is making the church do a lot of work that should be done at home. Again, because mom has been removed from the home and dad in the name of going to
out
work.
there?
So you find even in a Christian home, there's not structures for prayer. There's no structure for reading the word. There's no structure for fellowshipping together. And especially recently, we just were hit by COVID. I mean, the church went through a crisis. Families could not hold a service. I mean, we should learn from it. It's a shame as a family. We should be able to do a service together as a family and know that we are the first church before we can go and congregate in the four walls we are used to. So I think that the fathers need to instruct the home so the mothers can teach, because the father will give the instruction and the mother will show the how the instruction is to be carried out. So I think that when it comes to faith, the home has not been empowered to know how does faith manifest in our home. So now we've left the church, we say we're going to worship. Like it is some sort of place where worship just takes only there. We are going to give. We are going for mission. But even the small families should be able to be
To go on mission.
yes in your community around. Get the children on a prayer structure every morning. I was blessed at home. We have a prayer structure, and the times we don't pray, my children will come and say, "Mommy, it's time. We haven't started to pray." Or they'll say, "It's Sunday. We haven't started. It's Saturday. They know we prepare for Sunday on Saturday. So on Saturday they'll come and say, "Oh, Mommy, you haven't talked about what I'm going. Is this okay for me to wear tomorrow?" I think we need to get back to those basics that we are the first church. Instead of the working is good, but if it's going to rob our children the spiritual legacy, then we need to revise it.
Wow, that's beautiful.
I keep an example of a lady I used to work with just came to me and talked of availability, because someone will listen to this and say, "Well, you don't know my circumstances. I actually need that money, and single moms and all these things." And I remember this boss of mine at the time when I was working in the bank. She would call home and work with the maid of what have you prepared for lunch for the kids. What have you prepared for supper? I'm going to come late. Make sure you have cut this A, B, C, D, E, and F. I'll finish up that. Like, I looked at her as single at the time, and I was like, "Wow, you know." So like just the creativity to be involved in
your daily activities.
Yes, in the daily. I was just so amazed by that. So I think that we have really forgotten the influence that we have as mothers. And our influence boils down to being present. Children understand love through presence. So even if you're not able to be there with them, call them up. What's going on? What's happening in the home? What's going on? Let them know what you're doing. Involve them. So I think that special bond that we have with our children, the fact that they are more susceptible to listening to you in ways they will not listen to somebody else is something we really underestimate. So that aspect it came to my mind. But also the other thing that I think we've neglected is again the authority that we have. It's become commonplace to kind of joke about disobedient children. Like you are in a supermarket and this child shouts at the mother, and the mother is like, "Oh no, she's like that." She is, and like, absolutely not. You're raising this child to be disobedient. Like, who is going to keep up with them like that
when you're not around?
What's going to happen? So I think about the lack of discipline that we have completely forgotten about in the name of permissive parenting. And also the other thing I keep thinking about is how in the days of old there was a lot of communal parenting. Where you would spend time as a young mom, you'd spend time with your elders or your mother or your mother-in-law
To speak to you.
Yes, to speak to you.
To learn from them.
To learn from them. I think that the modern woman today really doesn't care for that advice.
I
And
know
it's
what I'm
so
doing.
much- exactly. I know what I'm doing. But you're not the first mother there will be.
Leave my children alone.
Right. So I think we are losing precious advice
Yeah.
from older women who have gone ahead of us, from whom we can garner a lot of experience from, because we can do things on our own, we figured it out, we are more knowledgeable, we have the internet and all of that, and I think it's very unfortunate.
You know, Daphne mentioned that point of when we are present for our children, it's in most cases communicates love to them, and how strong that is. For me, I feel like we learn to love from home. As parents or as mothers, we have neglected so much how important to teach our children how to love. Because trust me, love has to begin from home.
Yes.
When you experience that love, when you show them love, they are able to love another person. Because you see, I don't know, but I have met so many people in my adulthood, and you see someone just tells me, I don't know how to love. They're not paying attention to your needs. They're not paying attention to your emotions.
Yes.
They're not paying attention to anything. So I feel like when we be intentional to love our children, we are indirectly showing them how able they can love. And it starts from even their siblings.
Yes.
If you're eating something, can you please share? Because sharing could be out of you see, there was a day my son came back and then he was telling me, Mommy, at school I have a friend and he's my best friend. I'm like, what makes him your best friend? He shares with me. When he's eating his things, he also gives me. I'm like, you see? So we have to be intentional in loving our children, because what we give them is what will come out of them. You cannot give what you don't have, and it's hard to give what you didn't receive. So I think with that,
I think I would add something about love. We need to do better in the area, especially as wives.
Yes.
And not speak as mothers, in loving our husbands, back in the home.
Yes.
By creating an environment where they want to come back home. We have jobs where we work late, or maybe if we're not working late, we're not really keeping our home. Our home is not a place where we're excited to come back to. And yet, if we're going to be homemakers, we really need to make a home where a husband is proud to return home. Whatever they're doing out there, they're like, I'm going back to my home, to my wife and to my children.
Yes.
But you find that husbands are getting more comfortable to be out in the street because we are not doing a good job in keeping our homes and tidying up our homes, because again we lack the knowledge of how to raise a child so that the home is not overtaken by the season of having children. Someone enters your home and they're like, here they must really have children. It's like a nursery school. Our home is our home, not a nursery school. So I think we also need to do better so we can bring that authority of the husbands back in the home. Yes.
I love when you say to love our husbands, and I believe that our children also learn by what they see.
Yes.
If you are able to love your husband, they will see these gestures. They will see the things that you do. There was a time my son told me, my second born, but you love daddy so much. Why do you always call him Mukwan, my Mukwan? I'm like, because he's my husband. So I'm so sure that even when he grows up, he'll be wanting to also be in his family where he feels loved.
Yes.
You get so. Anyway, we are talking about motherhood. For those who are just joining us or joining us for the very first time, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with us.
The world keeps getting better when women make it a habit to fix each other's crowns and exclusively focus on picking up the broken pieces in the lives of other women. With great passion for women, children, and marriages, your hosts Ntwatwa Evelyn, Emma, Lorena, Diana D, Rhoda, and Lorita bring you the irresistible woman-to-woman reality talk show. Feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more about this eventful and exciting show. Woman-to-woman reality talk show. You're welcome.